Hello, YouTube world. Welcome to our first ever live broadcast for our podcast. It's so exciting. Thank you for joining and welcome to the Writing Gals, 4 sweet romance authors staying up late talking about all things romance and writing and any questions you have and probably more information than you wanted to know. So I am Amy Meyer, and I write under the pen name Anne Marie Meyer. And I will pass it buck to the other people to introduce themselves.
All right, I'm Victorine, and I write romantic comedy under my own name. And I'll pass it on to Michelle.
I'm Michelle Pennington, and I write a lot of different romance genres, but I'm focusing on contemporary, historical, and some fantasy.
And I'm Judy Corey, and I write young adult and clean romance. And yeah, it's all contemporary so far, so I might someday branch out, but not yet.
Yay! Well, welcome. I'm not sure if we can see comments. So this is our first ever live, so we will figure that out. So if you have any questions or comments, post a hi or what's up or something so we can kind of figure this whole thing out. So what we thought we would do first of all is introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about who we are, what we write, how long we've been writing, so that you can decide from that whether or not you want to listen to what we have to say in the future. So I'm going to let our seasoned veteran speak first and pass that over to Victorine, who's going to tell us what she writes, what she's written so far or writing right now, and why she chose traditional over indie.
All right. Well, I write, right now I'm writing my 13th novel. I have a married series and a billionaire series, and they're all romantic comedies. I do have a few that I've written that don't fall under romantic comedy, just some outliers, books that I wrote for the love of writing instead of for the market. But my books that I write to market are my romantic comedies. And I'm also writing a nonfiction book right now on how to write romance. And I'm basically taking one of my novels that I've written and just interrupting myself throughout it, commenting on what I did and why I did it in certain areas. And so this is really fun for me to kind of explain how I'm writing a book after I've already written it. And I'm really excited to share that with everybody.
I am writing currently contemporary romance, trying to finish a series. The Southern Billionaires are taking up a lot of my time right now, but I've written a lot of YA in the past. And I am looking forward to writing more on my Regency, which is how I really got into my love for writing. And it is something that I'm able to write both at the same time and kind of get a break from each world. And I really enjoy that. So.
Cool. I am currently, right now I'm working on getting my 3rd young adult contemporary romance published. I did a soft release 2 days ago, and I am planning to announce it in a couple days. And those are just fun young adult romances that sometimes deal with other dramatic things that sometimes happen to those teens, and they're just a lot of fun. And I'm also in the middle of doing my final revisions for my Billionaire Bachelor book, which will be part of my Billionaire series. And that's been a lot of fun, kind of moving to a older age group and getting to do different things with that. Still clean, of course, but a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I guess I will go last. Like I said, I actually write the whole gamut of what you can write. So under my pen name, Amy Linneberry, I write YA and middle grade. And then under my pen name, Anne Marie Meyer, I write contemporary romance. And I just finished a series My Billionaire series is a 5-book series. And so that's done and put to bed. Maybe someday I'll put another one out, but I'm excited to start new avenues of writing. So I'm currently writing a marriage series, like a fake marriage series, and having a lot of fun. I actually just finished my first book in that series, and it is with the editor right now and should come out, or she should get it back to me on Sunday. So hopefully next week it will release. It's called Marrying a Cowboy, part of a fake marriage series. And it was really fun to write. For some reason, my billionaire books get kind of serious and life lesson-y, which not what my intention was. But this one was just more fun and playful, and I really enjoyed writing it. And then I chose indie publishing just because of that reason right there, because I want to put books out as fast as possible. And it feels like in the publishing world, things go at a slow pace. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm kind of a get it written and get it done and move on type of person and get started on the next story. And I think in previous times, I'll start writing a book and I'll be like, oh my gosh, these characters don't know it, but they're going to fall in love. And that is exciting. It's fun to start a new journey with new characters. So I did try traditional publishing with my YA book. I sent it out to agents and to see what they would do with it. And I had a couple people request fulls, but nothing came of it. And I kind of set a date to myself. I said, if I don't hear back by this date, I'm going to self-publish it. And that was a good thing, because I was like, I feel like I gave them a chance to read it. I gave that option. Kept that open for myself, and that date came and went, and I was excited to have an alternative option. And I don't think the other ladies talked about traditionally versus indie, so I'm going to pass the buck back over to Victorine so she can give us a little shout out on why she wanted to do indie versus traditional, and she'll just pass that down as she finishes up.
Perfect. Well, I actually chose indie because I was following Joe Conrad's blog at the time, and he was talking about the difference between his traditionally published books versus his books that he just kind of threw up on Kindle because nobody wanted them. He wrote them and the traditional publishers rejected them. And so they were just sitting there, and he threw them up on Kindle, and he started making more money on his rejected novels that the traditional publishers didn't want, just by selling them on the Kindle. And so that's when I decided, you know what, instead of writing these query letters and waiting, 6-8 months before I get a rejection, I'm just going to toss this up on Kindle as well, just like Joe Conrad, and see what it does. And so luckily it really took off, and a year later it hit the New York Times bestseller list for me, and that was just kind of amazing. I don't really know if I would still be writing if it didn't take off the way it did, just because it was kind of like a one-time goal for me to write a novel. That's kind of why I started. I want to write a novel and be able to say that I did, and I kind of checked that box off. But when people started saying, I want to read more of your stuff, that's when I decided to keep writing and put more stuff out there. So that's really why I chose indie publishing, and I adore it. It just gives me so much control, and I feel like I have my career in my hands, where I'm not handing it off to somebody else. So I really enjoy that. Michelle, why did you indie publish?
I started out wanting to write early. Probably I was 10 years old or so, and I figured out that people are actually making these awesome books I was reading. And then I went to college, the whole time intending to be a writer someday. And I got married and started having kids. And then I was able to think, well, someday when my kids are all in school and I have the time to, travel and do, book signings and visit with agents and, all these kinds of things, I'll do that. And then I just happened upon, and the whole time I'm writing, just not trying to publish, then I stumbled upon Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, that I could publish it myself. And this was back in 2010. And I went, hey, that's the perfect answer for me, because I can do it on my schedule, at my pace, my time. And that began my love affair with indie publishing, because I am able to not only, it's kind of my thing. I tell everybody is I'm indie, I do what I want. And so I really enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoy having complete control over everything from my cover, my title, my, editing, storyline, what I tend to do with promotions and marketing. But the longer I do it, the more I realize that it's the best business option for me too, because there are so many opportunities for indie authors to be able to have access and control over how their business is growing. And we have immediate sales numbers to let us know if promotions are working. We have, the ability to go in and change covers or adapt to changing trends, or, any kind of adjustment that we need to make our sales better. We're able to do it at the drop of a hat, just like that. And I really appreciate that part of indie. And so I'm here for life. I'm not saying that nothing will ever tempt me to try the traditional route, but this just makes so much sense to me. So I'm here for good, I think. Judy, how about you?
So mine, it took me kind of a long time to decide to jump into the indie publishing world. I started writing back in 2012, and I decided I was going to be a New York Times bestselling author, like all us authors think we're going to be. And so I wrote my book, and I started querying it like in December of 2013. And I got rejected. And so I decided to fix it and make it even better, because, once the book was better, someone would want it. And so I did that. I revised it a ton. And then I submitted again. I got a few requests, and then ultimately got rejected again. And eventually, after kind of doing that for a few years, during that time I also wrote another book, so I wasn't just like sitting there waiting, because that would have been dumb. So I eventually I finally got an agent to tell me why they didn't want to accept that book, and it was because of the age gap between my characters, because it was young adult romance between like a high school girl who falls for her undercover bodyguard. And so that's kind of like taboo in the traditional publishing world. And I'm just like, if I would have known that, I could give myself some time. But
Darn.
so anyway, so once I found that out, I got a little more serious about self-publishing, because, I could change their age, but that would totally ruin the story in my mind, because I like the forbidden love a little bit, clean, but still forbidden, because that's fun. And so I started thinking more about it, and I saw one of my friends publish a few of her books, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. She's doing this, and she seems to be doing really well. And I found out that she had put her book on Wattpad first, and I'm like, well, I'm scared to just take that jump right now, so I'm going to put my book up on Wattpad and see if teens even like it, because as of that point, no teens had even read my book. It had just been read by adults. And so I put it up there, and it did really, really well. It went to like the #1 rising teen book in all of Wattpad that first, like after a week or two. And so I was like, oh, okay, people like it. I might have written a good book that's actually okay. So then I still was scared to do the indie publishing route. So, because, it has this reputation that's not always the best, depending on who you're talking to. So I tried for Kindle Scout, which is kind of like a mix between indie and traditional publishing. And so I tried for that in June, and I found out in July that I won that. And so I got my publishing contract with Kindle Press for my first book, Protect My Heart. And that came out in October. But then I had the idea, it'd probably be good for me to have another book out to help so they could kind of help each other. And so I did publish my second book 3 weeks after my Kindle Scout book came out, and that has done really well. It's actually done better than my Kindle Scout book, which, you would think that a book published by one of Amazon's publishing companies would probably do really well, but my indie, my fully indie book has done way better. It's made like 3 times the amount of money. So yeah, I'm a believer now, and I'm just gonna keep doing it. So it's awesome.
Perfect. That's awesome. I was listening to a podcast by Hugh Howey, and he was talking about why is it that as a society we get excited about other things, indie singers who are not traditional, that go on YouTube and start their own channel, or we have the film festival that celebrates indie filmmakers, and yet when it comes to indie publishing or indie stories, it's like, oh no, oh, you're indie, that kind of thing, where why can't us as a society be excited about people who want to be indie published, to take control of their stories? I think that was another reason why I wanted to go indie, was I wanted control. I didn't want people to come back and say, we want you to put this in your book because that's what's popular now, or you need to change the age of your characters. I talked to a librarian once who said that all the publishing companies said that dystopian books were on their way out. Nobody wanted them anymore. But she said every day, without fail, they had teenage kids coming in. Where's the next dystopian book? Where's the next dystopian book? So as indie authors, we can really get our pulse on what people want to read and bring them what they want, which is obvious in the sales numbers and the sales ranks that we have, that we listen to the reader, because the reader gives us our job, not the other way around, So
exactly, yeah.
So that's kind of why I chose to do indie. Although I didn't always think I was going to do indie. I was pretty convinced I wanted an agent and this kind of goes to the how long have you been writing and what got you started. So let's have Victorine start us out and tell us a little bit about, what got you started writing and how long. Have you been always sporadic, or are you full-time? And what motivates you to write more now?
Awesome. Well, I started writing back in 2005. I started writing because I injured my back, and I was in bed. I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom without help. And I was such a busy person that I just couldn't stand sitting there and doing nothing. It drove me nuts. And so I had a laptop, and I said, Charles, give me this laptop. I'm just going to write this book that I've always wanted to write, but I never had time to write because, I'd always been involved in other things. And so during that week when I couldn't really get up and move around, I wrote a book. I wrote the first draft in a week. And then after that, I decided, well, now that I wrote the book, I'm going to, publish it. I'm going to figure out how to get it printed. And then I'm going to walk into bookstores and say, here's my book. Do you want to buy it? And I was totally clueless about everything about writing and publishing. And thank goodness I found a critique website online, critiquecircle.com. And I started putting up chapters thinking, oh, I just want to see, how great this is because I think it's awesome. And so I put up chapters, and luckily people very kindly said, you could, improve this way or that way. And so I really took 4 years to rewrite the book several times. And I threw out a bunch of pieces and rewrote. Pretty much the whole thing is brand new. But that 4 years I kind of look at as my university in writing. And so I spent the time in order to learn how to craft a really good story. And then that's what I think helped me with the success of that book because of that back injury. And I forgot, you asked a couple more questions and I totally forgot what they were. Did I cover everything?
How do you write? Are you a sporadic writer? Do you do full time? And then what motivates you to write more?
Good question. I try to write every day. I don't always make it if I'm, traveling or doing other things, but I try to write every day, and I try really hard to get my 2,000 words in each day, because that really is what changed my writing perspective, making it more of a daily goal than something that I do in my spare time. I went from publishing 1 book a year or 2 books a year to last year, I believe I published 5 books. And that was insane crazy to me to think that I could actually write and publish 5 books in a year. And so it's really kind of changed my perspective. And it also has changed my bank account, having that money consistently coming in instead of having a big burst when I have a new one out and then waiting, almost a whole year before I get another one out. And so that is what is motivating me to write more currently is the paycheck that I'm getting every month.
So for me, you can find my early stories, or I think they still exist somewhere on floppy disks. That's how long ago I started writing, and in fact, it was kind of a nightmare trying to get one of them off of there.
Oh my goodness.
See what I've done with the thing. So I've been writing for a long time, but I've been writing with so I think an important key factor for every writer is when you can finally finish a story. Because for years and years and years, I wrote starts to stories and pieces of stories. And my very first book that I published back in 2000, I think it was 11, was the first book I actually finished beginning to end. And I think that is a huge milestone for anybody when you finally finish a story. And it gives you a lot of momentum to move forward. So from the time that I did that, and I just saw that I really enjoyed the freedom of getting a story out of my head, because as long as you haven't finished a story, it kind of takes up room, mental space. And so writing it all out and getting it out into the world was very freeing for me, because as most writers do, I have stories just piling in all the time. And so I got to where I was writing more and more often, because those were the days that I felt more at peace, like I had satisfied a personal need that I had, and then I could go out and I could share more of myself with other people, my children, my husband, my friends. I had more to give. And so that was where I started, with being able to be more consistent with when I wrote. And then recently, since I connected up with these 4 awesome ladies, and we started really making a push to learn how to make a full-time income from writing, I have been very motivated to get my word counts down and get my books out quickly. So I was doing 1 book a year. Last year I got 3 books out, and this year I am on schedule to get at least 5 out. And some of them are kind of bigger projects than others, but that's planned through September, so I might get another 1 or 2 in there. I'm really excited about that. It's improvement for me, and my youngest child starts kindergarten in 18 months. And my goal all along has been to be.
You're not counting down, are you, Michelle?
I'm not. I might tell you the days, but then I might look, a little crazy. So when Heidi goes to school, my youngest goes to school, I will have met my goal. I'm on track to meet my goal to be earning a full-time income consistently by the time she starts school.
It's an awesome.
That is fantastic.
Awesome. Okay. So what got me into writing was, I guess I always kind of wrote, but that was mostly journaling and then blogging. I started a story in 4th grade that was 1 page, and it was basically a ripoff of Face on a Milk Carton. So yeah, I loved that story that year. Anyway, but then, so in 2012, I'd been reading a lot, and I had the thought that maybe I would like to write, but I never really did anything with that thought until my sister-in-law invited me to go and listen to this author speak. And just going and seeing an author was way cool, because I'd never been around one before. And so I went and listened to her, and she just kind of told her story of how she got into it. And her story was, it wasn't this crazy thing. She didn't go to school to be a writer. She didn't major in English. And that was kind of like me. I didn't major in English. I was the type of person that always said that I liked math better than English, which now is just crazy, because I like English way more nowadays. So I went there and I thought a little more seriously about it, but it still took me like 6 months to actually write my first words because I wasn't confident in that yet. And I didn't have this awesome idea yet. So once I did have that idea, I got started writing and I wrote that book. It took about a year to finish the first draft and then revise it after that. And so like a year and a half before I started querying that. And then I wrote my second book. That took another year to finish the first draft because I had 3 little kids at that time. And I was writing most days during nap time, but not every single day. And that book just took forever because it was a mess and I rewrote it like 3 times. It's kind of like 3 books and end up with one. And yeah, so I've learned better since then to how to make a story, which is good, but that taught me how to write. And the first 5 years of writing, I wrote 3 books, but I didn't publish until after that. So yeah, my writing was pretty sporadic until like this last fall. It got a little more intense when I met these ladies and got in a critique group with them, and like they're so fast. And so I'm like, well, I gotta kind of try to keep up with them. And so I wrote my next book, and it took 6 months from first words until published. So that was like way fast for me, from 3 books in 5 years to 1 in 6 months. Hopefully I'll get faster too, but I don't know if I will ever catch up to Amy because she's like 1 book. I just like,
Amy's too fast.
Yeah,
maybe someday when
I'll never catch up to Amy.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm hoping the tortoise and the hare thing works for us, Judy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So and I guess what motivated me, to write more often was these ladies, a lot of it, and then also actually seeing myself making money doing it. Because before then it was like, oh, I might make money at this someday. I really hope that I will. I was planning on it, but it wasn't ever like a real thing until I actually hit publish and saw the money coming in. And then it was more than I had expected because I'd heard things like, you don't make money until your first trilogy is out. Don't plan on making anything. You might, get to pay your editor after 6 months, like you might have paid that off. And luckily for me, I paid that off in the first month, and it's just been really good since then. So yeah.
We're just baiting all the people. We're like, just wait, we're going to tell you very soon what kind of incomes we're seeing. Julie Oates just said, what type of income are you guys seeing? Hang on, we're almost there. Are you done, Judy?
Oh yeah, I think I'm done.
All right. So after I talk, then we will get into numbers. I was just going to tell my story. So I, like these ladies, have written since I was a kid. I have lots of manuscripts, like Michelle said, that was started. Actually wrote and illustrated a children's book when I was a kid called The Mystery of the Black Thing. And we can't find it to this day. And I keep thinking that was the $1 million story, that if we could just find it, then it would get sold. But it's forever lost. And then when I was a teenager, I wrote a goal sheet for myself. And one of those was to write and publish a novel. And after my second son was born, I said, all right, it's time to check this off my goal list. So I started writing, and it was the most complicated book you could think of, which we all start that type of book where we say, all right, let's put every genre we can think of into this one book, and it's going to be awesome, and no one's going to see it coming, and it's going to just take off. And I had gotten about 100,000 words right into it, and I joined a critique group, and I let them read it. And this lady came back to me and said, about 20,000 words into it, I'm not quite sure why they went up there, because it was a time traveling, living up in space type story, and I'm not sure why they went up there just to come right back down. And I was like, oh, well, okay. put the brakes, stop, gotta go back, fix that. Wrote 50,000 words. And then after I finished writing that one, when I wrote the end, I said, oh, my main character is really flat. I got to write her again. So I wrote the whole manuscript all over again by adding some side characters in to help bounce her personality off, so she didn't seem just this like blob moving through, the story. And then I wrote, it was supposed to be a trilogy, so I wrote the second book for NaNoWriMo. And then when I kept going back to edit, I was like, wow, how does one edit a 50,000 word manuscript? Because by the time I get to 25,000 words, I can't remember what I wrote in the first chapters. So I decided to write a children's book for my sons, a middle grade story. And that was 25,000 words. So I wrote that one, and I was like, okay, this is a much more easier, bite to chew. I can figure this out. So I used that as my guinea pig, and I self-published that book because I knew middle grade just was going to be hard to sell in general. And I just wanted to have a book out there that I wrote for my kids. And so I published that book. And then I had an idea for a story for a YA book. And I wrote, that was the one I got some agents requesting my manuscript from. And lucky for me, I posted on the LDS Beta Reader site that I was so excited. People were excited. And then Victorine said, oh, I'd like to read it. Can I read it? And I was like, okay, sure. New York Times bestselling author wants to read my book. So I sent it off to her, and a couple of days later, she emailed me back, and she said she loved it. She thought it was great. And if I didn't find an agent with it, she would help me with self-publishing. And when she told me what her income was 2 years ago, her last year, I was like, okay, maybe I need to listen to this lady a little bit. So that's when I set my date for I was going to publish. And I didn't get an agent, so I hit the publish button. YA is hard to make money at, so I tip my hat to Judy because she is rocking the YA world. I am not. My books have kind of gone into oblivion, but that's okay. They're for love, my baby books. I love them a lot. I wrote the second book of that series, and I realized nothing was really taking off. And talking with Michelle and Victorine, we're going to write billionaire books. So I messaged Michelle and Victorine, can I join you ladies? And so I started writing my billionaire series. I wrote 4 of the books between August to the end of the year last year. So I would say for us, I'm probably the most prolific writer of the 4 of us. And it was one time I was talking, and I think I was like, I'm going to... something about racing, and you're like, who are you racing, Amy? We're like turtles compared to you. And because I have a very competitive spirit, but I'm competitive against myself. How much faster can I put this book out this time? And I'm like, I'm racing. And Michelle's like, you're racing yourself, Amy. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what you're doing. Like, you just.
Let's put this into perspective. So I started slightly before her, and I'm publishing my second in my series next week, and she's on 5 books out in the first series and first book in the second series. That's the difference between us. Just
But Michelle also does write a lot of different genres in the romance genre, so she kind of keeps herself sprawled out a little bit. But I think it's also important to show that once you get the storyline process, like how to do it, it gets a lot faster. You get a kind of a sense of, okay, this is what needs to happen in the story. So your rewriting becomes less. You're needing to know where it happens becomes less. Had I not taken that time, those 5 years, yeah, it's been 5 years since I started writing. If I hadn't taken that time and rewrote those books and learned what I did wrong, that I wouldn't be able to be to that point where I am today. So, and that's really important. And somebody asked a question, and I'm just going to answer it because I think it really only applies to me, why I use different names. I'm guessing different names in terms of authors. So normally they say if you're going to write middle grade and you're going to write erotica, then you need to have 2 different names. Obviously, you don't want a middle grader picking up an erotica book because they know you as an author. Now, I don't write that. I write middle grade and I write sweet romance, but I really knew my sweet romance was going to be my bread and butter. So I really wanted just a clean 1 author name, 1 author website for my clean romance, because to me, that's all people were going to be interested in terms of that area. And I didn't want it to be come read all these different books that I write. Now, that being said, I think a lot of my YA readers that have read my book or pick it up on Kindle Unlimited have come from my billionaire books, because I don't hide it. I put it in the back of my books. If you like my books, check out my pen name where I write YA in middle grade. So I think that helps, but I just wanted to have just a clean, it wasn't necessary, and it is sometimes a little bit more work, but I thought, hey, I want 2 different names just so have it there. And I also wanted a pen name just because I think Amy Meyer is a really boring name. I wanted to make it a little more exciting and a little more romantic, I guess, than my name. My doctor even told me, you have a very common 2 names put together. Well, thanks, Okay, so enough about me blabbering on. We're going to talk numbers. So let's turn the time over to Victorine to tell us her numbers.
Oh, I think we're going to talk to Michelle first. She's going to tell us why we want to disclose that information.
Sorry. Yes, thank you, Victorine.
Yeah, that's right. So we just wanted to let everybody know that we have a very specific purpose for sharing our sales numbers. A lot of times people are really, close about it. It feels like it's a tricky subject to talk about with other people. It's our earnings, it's our money, and it's hard to either talk about it without sounding like we're self-deprecating or like we're bragging. And so we just wanted to let you know we're sharing our numbers because we want you to see how we've grown. We want you to see what the possibilities are, and we want you to know that that self-publishing is something that is a good business model. It's something that is a rising opportunity for a lot of people, and we are learning and experimenting together, and we want to be able to share with you what we're finding, what we're learning, because in the reading world there is no competition. Like, we want everybody to improve, because the more people that find authors that they love, the more books they're going to want to read, and it just improves the business for all of us. And so we want all of you to succeed. We want you to be pulling in the sales and the numbers that you need and your family needs. We're business women as well as authors, and we have 2 hats that we wear. And I think it's really important that we know that we have talents, and we can go out and use them to make money to support our families, just like any other talent people use to support their family. And it doesn't mean that we are cheapening our work. It doesn't mean that we don't care about our craft. It just simply means that we are learning how to make money, and we're inviting you to come and do it with us. So now, Victorine, wow us with what you are doing.
All right. That was perfect, Michelle. Great explanation. I looked at my book report earlier today, and this is all-time sales from Amazon only. I've made $264,000 and some change from Amazon Kindle. That's not counting any paper sales or audiobook sales. I checked my audiobook sales today. I've made roughly $10,000 in audiobook sales. I'm estimating print and foreign and like my Kindle Scout book and everything else that I've done, probably between $5,000 and $10,000 have come in from that. So overall, I'm sitting around $280,000 from my books that have come in. Books sold, I've sold 258,000 books just from Kindle. Pages read, I'm at almost 26 million pages read. Monthly income for me right now, my normal monthly sales are about $5,000 a month. A high month for me is about 7,000. And those are pretty average months. My highest month ever, I think I brought in 15,000 in 1 month. And I've had low months as well. I took about 2 or 3 years off of writing in between my first book and when I started writing my romantic comedies. And so there have been months and years where I wasn't bringing in a lot of money from my writing. I was focusing more on learning my graphic design and that kind of thing. But those are my overall numbers on what I'm doing. And when I write a book and I know it's going to settle down after a while, about 6 to 8 months, it'll settle down in there. I usually plan on it bringing in about $500 to $700 a month more on top of what I'm already making. So that's kind of what I plan on when I write a book, is that's what it's going to be bringing in when it settles down. My new books, my billionaire books, bring in over $1,000 a month at the beginning. The ones that are starting to settle, they're bringing in around $900 a month right now for me. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. Michelle, your turn.
Okay, so we get to go from the top down to the bottom. I am very, very much a newcomer to this whole making an income thing. I've only been earning real money for the last 5 months since I put out my first book that I wrote to market. And that's a big thing that you're going to hear us talking a lot about on this podcast, is that we're not writing books that, don't fit anywhere, that nobody cares about but us. We're trying very hard to reach a specific market that we know readers want to buy what we're going to be selling. Since I did that, just overall total, my whole writing career, this will put things in perspective for you. Since I published my first book, I've only made $17,000, but I've made over $13,000 of that in the last 5 months. So, I mean, like, a huge percentage. I'm not going to do the math for you because that's not what I do, but a huge
Judy.
chunk. Huh?
I said Judy likes math.
Yeah,
so
Judy do the math while I'm talking. So in the last 5 months, I've made the vast majority of my overall sales in my career, and that's really for only 2 books. I mean, I've got 7 books out that I earn royalties on. I've got an 8th book that I don't earn royalties on. But out of just the 7, only 2 of them are actually earning me any kind of money. And those books are currently hanging out around the 20,000s in sales rank. My first billionaire is 23 today, and my Christmas book, it's March, and it's still at 25,000, which I think is really cool. So they're earning about $8 a day for me right now, which is pretty low because my numbers are settling and I haven't put a new book out in a while. Like I said, the second book of my series is going to come out next week. So I'm excited to see what that does to boost the rest of my sales. I'm in the last 5 months, I've averaged $2,700, with my highest being $5,300 in December that I have made. And
that was the Christmas one.
That was almost entirely my Christmas book. That book got up to like 638 in ranking, so it did really well for me. I wish it wasn't a Christmas book. I mean, I think it did so well because it was, but it would be good to pull those numbers with any book I put out.
Right.
So I was looking at actual total sales, and I've sold 850 copies of my billionaire book, but I've had like 1,200,000, almost 300,000 pages read, which is the equivalent of 5,000 more copies when you divide it out. And so clearly I'm making a lot more money with Kindle Unlimited than I am in direct sales. And my Christmas book is sitting, I've had 1,100,000 pages read in that one and sold 1,700 copies, with another like 4,250 copies in Kindle Unlimited rates. So as you can see, this is something that has greatly changed my business model. And even though I still have books that I consider my love books, the books that I really, really want to write, I'm writing books to make money too. And you know what? I learned to enjoy those books. They may not have this same, heart tugging, this means something to me personally feeling, but I put just as much heart and effort into the books I write for money, and I'm really proud of where I'm going, and I look forward to the start of this successful end of my writing career, because it's hard. I feel for all the writers who have been struggling for so long and not making any money, because that was me for years and years and years and years. And who knows, it might be me again someday. But this is so exciting because I know I can do it, and I know that you can too. And Judy is just rocking the world is the young adult right now. She really is, because Amy and I both have young adult books that don't do what Judy's are doing. So let's hear about hers.
Okay. You talked me up. I don't know if I'm gonna disappoint everyone or not, so we'll see.
No, you are crazy. You have that yellow. We have all wanted that orange tag on our books, and you are the one who has it, and it has it consistently.
Yes.
It's been really nice. I've liked that.
Yes.
If it ever disappears, I'll be so sad, but it better stay forever.
You know, I look at it as I got to keep a baseline, because once I hit that, then I have to hit something else, you know, and I'm like, I'm okay right now. I'll just keep going. The orange tag can be my, you know, Everest. So what's going to be your Everest once you know hit your next book? And
Amy's Judy's waving at us from the summit. She's like, "Hey."
Well, except your guys'
right?
Frank Tire.
down there with no orange tag.
Whatever. Okay, so my numbers are a little different because my first book is a Kindle Scout book, and so I don't have everything on them on it. And I get a 50% royalty from that book, whereas with the Kindle Direct or KDP, I get 70% most of the time. So for my Protect My Heart book, it has, well, okay. So the way they do the Kindle Unlimited thing, they don't do page reads for Kindle Scout. Just if someone downloads it, I get the full credit for all the pages that are in it. So they just count how many downloads that has. And so I've sold 479 copies, and then I have had 2,504 copies borrowed since October 3rd when it came out. And so that's like, it's basically like 2,983 copies have sold, I guess. And so with that book, I only have sales numbers from October to January. And the total for that is $3,454. And with that, the rank, it fluctuates between like 5,000 to 12,000. These days it's more like 8,000 to 12,000. It goes up and down every day. So, yeah, so most days I'm selling like 20 copies a day with that, counting the Kindle Unlimited. And my highest rank for that, it's like nowhere close to these ladies. So my highest rank was 2,300 on that book, which is still really good. And I'm really happy. I never thought I'd make it there. Like when I first published, I'm like, if I can get under the top 100,000, that'll be awesome. So yeah, so that was good. And then Don't Forget Me, it has done much better. And I'm happy about that. And I hope that my next book will do as well, because that'd be awesome. So Don't Forget Me, it came out October 25th. And since then, it has sold 1,137 copies. And then the page reads is 1,800,000 page reads. And so my all-time that I've made on that book is like $9,600 since October 3rd. So, and that's as of today at like 8:00 p.m. So,
might be a couple of dollars more now.
Yeah, a couple more dollars maybe. So, and so with that, when I was like the highest rank that one even got to was 1,500. So it's still nothing like Michelle's 600. But I've been lucky that it has like stayed there, and it actually, like the first 2 months it settled around 4,000, and then I did a sale, like a 99-cent sale around Thanksgiving, and that put it into the 2,000s, and it stayed there. I
remember that you're like, my rank is climbing. Why is my rank climbing? Is this normal? Is this okay? We're like, just love it. Just take it.
Yeah, so it got better, which was really exciting. And so it sat there for a couple months, and it was making like $80 to $110 a day, which was wonderful. And then even around Christmas, there was this wonderful splurge, I guess, of everyone spending their Christmas money. And so it made like $140 for a couple days, which was lovely. I loved that. It was sad to see it go. So right now it's sitting around 4,000 to 5,000 in rank, and it makes like $40 to $60 a day. But I'm hoping that with the release of my second book in that series, which is called Meet Me There, I just released it on Tuesday night. Haven't told anyone but you guys. So and I'm hoping that it'll help it get.
Can I just say something real quick? So what I think is really cool about Judy's story is that maybe her rank hasn't spiked up as high as some of our books have, but her ranking has stuck. Like it stayed higher than a lot of our books are staying, which is why she's earning consistently more. And that's one of the things we're all trying to figure out how to do is instead of getting a sharp spike in our sales rank, we're trying to figure out how to keep it consistently higher. And Judy has got the magic touch there. So I just want to bring up that point real quick because I think that's what's working really well for you.
Yeah. And so my whole total sales altogether, I have made like $13,000 since October, which I never imagined would happen. So I've been really happy, and I just hope it keeps going. So like my highest month was December, where I made almost $4,000, and then right now I'm averaging between maybe like $2,500 to $3,000. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I will talk about my numbers then. So when I put my middle grade book out in December of 2016, I sold a couple copies, didn't really do anything. I think overall I have made very, very little from my middle grade books. $6 actually since August, which is where I put my book report at. So then I wrote my YA books, put them out there, and they kind of did okay, not really. And then they went down, and then I did a free day in July, and it really shows that when you write to market, your free days, if you do a free day, it just takes off. My to market book, I think I have a good book. It's just it doesn't hit the tropes. People don't necessarily know what it's about. So it just kind of came back down. So the month of August, I decided I was going to start Facebook ads. I was going to start ads. I needed to get my book in front of people. And I started Facebook ads, and I was, as long as I was breaking even every day, I was fine. But if you know, Amazon pays out on a 2-month lag. So what you make in August, you don't get until end of October. No, is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
2 months
Yes.
after. Yeah. And so, so that was kind of a little bit of feeding the beast, because Facebook is very happy to take your money right away, and they don't care that Amazon doesn't pay you for 60 days. So the month of August, I pulled my rank out of oblivion, and I was settled at about 20 to 15,000 rank with my YA books, but everything I was putting in, I was, spending right back out. And so, but I was okay with that. But every day I literally was like, okay, where am I at? Oh no, should I turn my ad off because I've spent this amount of money and I haven't quite made this amount of money yet. So I wanted to find an easier way to do it. So that's why I started writing for market books. So I released my first billionaire book at the end of August. So the numbers I'm going to give you right now have been since that. So my YA series has made me about $3,000. Since August until now. So not bad. It makes me good. But I've turned off all my ads for that. I haven't been putting money into it because it wasn't worth it to me. I'd rather write books that are going to market themselves. And then my billionaire books. So I've made, since end of August, I've made $26,000 on all 5 of my billionaire books. My most profitable one has been my first one at 8,000. The rank I got in that book was under 1,000, but then after the first week, I switched from 99 cents to the full price. I was the first person to put a bit of a billionaire book out. Then it was Victorine and Michelle. And we've learned from each other's release schedules, what we're doing, what they're doing, and kind of tweaking it. So I say I didn't get as successful because I bit the bullet and changed the price to $2.99. And then we all learned that you shouldn't do that because then your rate can still keep increasing in price or going up or down or however you want to go. You want to go closer to one, not farther away. So however direction you want to go. But I did stay around the 1,000 rank with that, making $2.99, so it wasn't bad. My overall ranks right now for my books, I have gone 11,000 right now is where Forgetting is my first book. Up until 3,900 is what my latest billionaire book that I just put out, 3,900 in the store. And so this shows how a rapid release schedule keeps your ranks higher. So as I put out the next book, and I'll watch all my ranks increase, and then they'll start to go down, and I'm like, oh, I got to put another book out, and I put a book out, and it all increases. So I really think my ability is not because I wrote this amazing book, is because you want to keep your books visible. So if somebody reads one of your books, they're going to go back and read the other ones. That's why building a big backlist is so important. Overall, I have made the entire time I've written, hold on, I got to scroll back up. Oh, I have sold 7,200 books and have had 5.1 million pages read. So KU for us, which is Kindle Unlimited, is the probably most profitable for us. So to give you perspective, like Michelle said, I think I said I made 29,000. It was like 29,600. If I go all from the entire time since basically January 2016 until now, I've made 30,719. So 200. Well, sorry, not 200. Less like 1,000 was made before that. And then in the last 6 months, I have made $29,000, which is just an insane thing to think that that was even possible. I would have never guessed that was possible. You know, every time I hit that, you know, mark, it would be crazy. Sorry, I'm reading the comments as you're talking. My husband's teasing me. So anyways, and so that for me is a huge motivator. Let's get more books out. Let's make more money. And so I feel that pressure a lot, which is put on myself. And I think all self-published authors feel that way too. You know, you want to get your next book out so you can rise in ranks. So there are numbers. Obviously, we have to study the market. We have to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to. And all of these things are going to be something we discuss. It would be a lot to try and pack it into this. So we're going to be breaking things down. We're going to talk about how we come up with stories, we're going to talk about tropes. We're going to talk about writing to market. We're going to talk about our release schedule. We're going to talk about what we do personally, something that's been kind of tried and true through all of us. Every time we put a book out to market, you know, we're not Cami Checketts and Jennifer Youngblood and all those amazing authors who we will have on our podcast. So be excited that get to the 2,000 in the store at $2.99, which just blows my mind. But it's all about getting well known. It's about getting more books out, getting it in front of people. So we have a lot of questions that have been asked, which is awesome. We were so excited, the response that we got when we decided to do this. We looked on YouTube and there's really no one talking about romance and sweet romance to begin with. I mean, a lot of numbers, and not to knock other authors, but most romance books have scenes in them that most people don't know, so they don't want to pick it up. And so we wanted to be able to say, look, we have the numbers, we can do this, and we want people to do this. We want to fill the world with good things that are going to be good and wholesome, and we want everybody. There's no, well, if I teach her how to write, then she's going to be taking my clients. No. Romance readers devour books. They read 2 to 3 a day. So, let's all give them books to read. But our things that we talk about aren't going to be just romance. You can imply them into any book you write. Even though most books have an underlying theme of romance, you can apply any of the things that we talk about to the books. So let's do you guys have anything else you want to say? Do you want me to start jumping into the questions? We can do questions for a couple minutes.
Yeah, let's do questions.
Yep.
Okay. So what are the highs and lows through this trek of being indie? What's a high or low? A high and a low. So go ahead, Victorine.
Oh, the high point definitely is when you get an email from a reader who says, I stayed up all night to read your book. I just loved it. It made me laugh. It made me cry. You know, that is the best feeling in the world. I would probably say that's probably the most high. The other one, I have gotten 2 emails from 2 different movie producers asking about movie rights for 2 different of my books, and that was pretty darn high as well. I loved that. Nothing ever came from that, of course, because, you know, that's like rock star pie in the sky goal there, but that was awesome. The lows are probably when you are stuck in the middle of a book and you hit that wall and you just feel like every word is tooth out and it just is killing you. So that's probably the hardest thing about doing this for me.
Well, if I was going to say high points for me, there are definitely those reviews that you get occasionally where somebody not only really enjoyed your book, but tell you that it meant something, you know, particular to them, or it really, you know, made their day better, or they got to laugh for a while. That means a lot. I also really appreciated being able to pay for my daughter's braces like all at once. I mean, that was amazing. So those were 2 kind of like good things. One like craft related, you know, because they liked my story, and one of them was like, oh look, I'm actually getting to where I can call myself, you know, a successful author. And lows are always for me in the middle of my editing stages when I have just and I've got it right now. I was joking with some of my friends today that I had to put extra makeup under my eyes because I have editing fatigue right now. And I'm so tired. My brain is just mush. But when you have people telling you this is wrong, you got to fix this, you didn't do this right, you'd start thinking like, this is just nothing but criticism, even though people are telling you good things too. You just, as an author, it's so easy to just listen to the criticism and tell yourself you're the worst ever. That's hard, and it's hard to get critical reviews. It just is. And it's never, I mean, I hope I develop a thick skin someday, but until then I just develop coping mechanisms, because every once in a while there's going to be somebody who just does not like your book. I've had people say they wanted to throw my characters off a cliff. They've said things, you know, about me personally or my writing personally, and it hurts, you know. And so those are things that are just always going to be hard, and I don't know how to fix it. But, you know, we just learn how to cope and move on, and we go back and reread our positive reviews, right, guys?
Exactly.
How about you, Judy?
So I'm a lot like you guys. My highs are when I get like a really good 5-star review. Those always make me so happy, especially the ones that like more than just like the I loved it or whatever, but when they actually like say, you know, what they loved about it, and like you could tell that they really connected with your characters and really understood them and loved them just as much as I love them. Like that is the best. I love that so much because that's why I write. Like I love these people that I'm writing about that are, you know, imaginary, but they're real. It's in my head. So, yeah, so that's a high. Also just like finally making money at it. That's been really good because I went 5 years where I was just writing and who knew if I was going to make anything. So actually getting paid and being able to like help out with our household finances and being able to even buy like fun things, that's been really great. Because, you know, I'd been a stay-at-home mom for like 10 years and I hadn't worked in that whole time. So it's like, oh, I'm finally making money again. That's great. So not just mooching off my husband. Not that I was. I watched the kids. So, you know.
Now he can mooch off of you though, Judy. That's the way.
That's right.
Tables have turned.
We'll see. Anyway, another high was, you know, after getting rejected by so many agents, having one come to me and ask if they could represent me after seeing how well my book was doing. And that was really cool. Like, now they're coming to me. Okay, this is awesome. So that was a high moment. And then the low moments are, of course, the self-doubt, like, because, you know, I've had books critiqued and like people hated them. Like someone hated, my books, and they said, you know, move along, don't finish this. And so that was really hard. And that's kind of also why it took me forever to self-publish, because I did not feel very confident in my writing. But then a high from that is that the book that they hated so much is my best-selling book. Like, so it's who it's for, I guess. So not everyone's gonna love everything. I don't love everyone's books either, so it's just how it is. Another low thing is just when I get stuck, which happens all the time. It seemed like when I wrote Meet Me There, just barely, because I was trying to write it fast, trying to get it done, and it seemed like after every single chapter, I got stuck, and it was so frustrating because I thought I knew where it was going to go. I like re-outlined it so many times, and I would write the chapter, and then the story changed on me again, and I like the way it's going, so I'm not going to go back and change it. So I just had to. I got stuck a lot, so that was another low. And then another thing is just trying to balance everything, because, you know, I have 4 kids and a husband, and life is crazy, and so it's just hard to do that, but it's worth it, and my family is really supportive, and so that's good too.
That's very good.
Perfect. Well, I would say my highs are when I was running Facebook ads, people who commented on my Facebook ads like, I love this book is so great, when's your next one coming out? Because I think with Amazon ads, Amazon does really push to get people to review books, which is why you'll get people who say, I haven't even read this book, but Amazon won't leave me alone, so I'm going to give it a 1 star, where you're like, well, you know, deleted the email. But having people like contact me on Facebook, because it's, you know, people don't go to Facebook to get, you know, to buy books. They go to Facebook to be entertained. So the fact that they stopped scrolling to comment always made me feel really cool. And then for me, a high would be the money, honestly. That validation that, you know, you don't get a lot of, you know, asks to be on news shows or anything like that, like traditionally published, selling authors do, but having the validation that people are reading it and they're enjoying it, they're going all the way through it, and then they're going through my whole series. And then also the reviews that say, you know, this is a great book. My favorite is when I get people who say, this is the best book ever, because I'm like, oh, yay. Because then on the opposite side, the low is the people who say, this damn book is terrible. Why would you read this? This is awful. It's non-realistic, which I want to be like, it's a billionaire book. It's a young, attractive billionaire man. Right there, you should know this is not real. No, there's attractive billionaires in the world. But you know, those types of things is always hard. And for my YA books, hearing stories of the girls reading my books is awesome. I had a lady send me a picture of her daughter's bed, and it was the pillow in the bed was made, and my book was on her pillow. And I was like, wow, that's so cool that they like it that much that they're reading it and they put it. I'm like, is it to remind her to read it, or is it so she doesn't lose it? I don't know. But I'm like, hey, she took my book, my words, something I put together, and she wanted to take good care of it. So that was an awesome high. And then like with these ladies, trying to find a balance. I've got a lot of irons in the fire in my life. I've got 5 kids. One of them is not even a year old yet. And so trying to make sure I balance all of that. Balance being a mom, balance I have another job I do, balance this. My husband works from home, which is why I am prolific, because he does watch the kids for me so I can write during the day, which is helpful because I do have 2 kids at home. So finding that balance and then getting to that moment where we become stuck. And I think I need to make a writing journal where I say, at this point in the story, I feel this way, because I'm always like, I'm writing, I'm like, oh, you must be at that point in the story, Amy, where you're like, oh my gosh, this book is terrible. No one's ever going to read it. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to the world? And, you know, just finding a way to push past that and still setting those goals of writing every day that you have, even though you get stuck. So anyways, Julia, it's not a full-time job. It's an extra part-time job I have. I do not have a full-time job and write and have 5 kids. That would be insane. And it's kind of something I did to myself. If you talk to my husband, he has lots of feelings about that. So let's answer one more question. So let's talk about our books, because we talked a lot about what we're making. Let's talk about our word count and how long do we devote to writing, and how long does it take to write 2,000 words? I think that can all be kind of put together in one. Victorine, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Well, I always shoot for 50,000 words in my books when I'm writing. And after doing it several times, it really helps me know that if I look at my word count and I'm at 25,000, I know, well, okay, this is my midpoint. I need something to happen at my midpoint. And it helps me plot, because I'm a pantser. I usually just start writing and just go. And so it really kind of helps me know what level of attraction these people should be having at the beginning, in the middle, near the end, and helps me plan. So 50,000 is what I shoot for. And I usually get right about on the nose with that. I write for as long as it takes to get 2,000 words. Now, if I shut off Facebook and I say, okay, I'm going to turn on the timer and I'm going to write for 30 minutes, usually I can get those 2,000 words done in about 2 hours if I'm pushing myself. So about 1,000 words in an hour. I'll write for a little while, take a break, write for a little while, take a break, things like that. If I am distracted and on Facebook and answering emails and questions and stuff like that, then it can take me all day to write those 2,000 words. Yesterday, I was writing my nonfiction book about how to write, and I was getting into it. I wrote more than 7,000 words yesterday. I was like, yes! Now, if I only could get into the fiction like that, then I could be putting out 2 books a month. Wouldn't that be awesome?
That's why we're doing a podcast, because we love to talk about writing and we love to talk.
Exactly. So that's where I'm at.
So I am learning with contemporary romance that when I'm writing my rough draft, I always get to around 47, 48,000 because I write really lean. And I'll clean it up and send it off to beta readers, and they'll tell me where they want to see it fleshed out, where they want more information, where they want more details, where they want, all that good stuff. And so by the time I go back in for my more, final edits, I'm able to get to that 50,000 mark. And that is a really sweet spot, word count wise, for contemporary romance, because it allows you to be accepted for promotional things, where there's usually a 50,000 word mark you have to hit to be eligible. And it is like the least amount that you can put into a book, if that makes sense. So like if you write 80,000 words, you might make more money on it, but it's going to take you longer. And so your time is better invested in writing shorter books and writing more books in a series as you grow over time. So and like Victorine said, as I write 50,000 words consistently, my brain has developed an instinct for where I need to be pacing everything in the book. So I've had a few people remark that my pacing is really, really well developed, and it's because it's like a muscle that you learn to use. And so when I'm working on my historical romance, which should be around 60 to 70, I'm struggling. I'm like, this book needs to end at 50,000 words. What am I supposed to do? So again, it's more about market expectations there and trying to learn. If I sit down to write and I don't have any distractions and I know what I'm going to write about, then I can get about 1,500 words an hour because I write pretty slow. That's generally my best pace, but I can usually get several hours in on a good day. And so I can get 3,000 to 5,000 words on my best writing days. And my worst writing days are probably like 500 to 1,000.
So I guess I'm a little different. My books have been around 75,000 words each. They're a little longer, but that also means my page reads, I get a little more thanks to those words, which has been nice. So like my first 3 books that I wrote are like around 75,000, and then my 4th one was 69,000. I I don't keep track of how many words I write a day, which maybe I should, but I ended up deleting a lot of them, and so I don't know. It's just whatever. I'll get better at that, I'm sure. And it's just so like I have a 2-year-old at home, and so a lot of my writing time depends on her, like if she's taking a nap or not, and who knows how long that's going to be. So I just whatever. I'll count someday maybe. So my fastest book was my bachelor book, and that one I wrote the 75,000 words in 2.5 months, and then revised it over the last month. And so, yeah, however long that equals per day, figure that out. And the other
You're the math person.
Yeah.
You're not going to let that down now, Judy.
And then, yeah, was there more to the question? I
think you answered it.
Okay.
For me, my middle grade is about 25,000 words, and my YA books have clocked in about 70 to 75,000 words, and my billionaire books come in. My leaner ones are at 50,000 words. I always end up going a little more over. Some of them have been 56 to 57,000 words, just because I want to make sure I tie up all the plot holes and make sure it's not just ended, and there's a satisfying ending. I'm a faster writer. I can do my big days. I've done 10,000 words or 15, depending on if I'm doing a nano, and then that's where I sit and I write the whole day, like no kids, no husband, nothing. I can sit and write. And for me, a lot of the times it's just put the words on the page, because I think a lot of times we stop ourselves. So especially if you don't know where it's going, sometimes, very rarely, but I have gone forward in the story and then written my way back. So because I'll write a scene and, okay, they need to have this scene to make this scene make sense. And then I go back, they need this scene to make this scene make sense. And then I can tie that all back in together. I normally try to write 2,000 to 3,000 words a day, depending on how excited I am about the story. I can get it done in an hour and a half, or I get it done in 3 hours. It just kind of depends on if it's okay, I got to sit down and do this again. But again, it comes down to, I'm a competitive person, so I get on the writing sprints page and I'm like, all right, I got to beat everybody here. No, I'm not that mean, but I'll be like, okay, I got to get a good number in, Amy. Got to get a good number, and just having
and
that.
She does. She's always double mine.
I know, mine too. She's fast.
So but it comes down to, I know exactly where I'm writing, or I know the plot, I know how it's supposed to go. It's like that muscle you just learn, and you just keep working it, and you get faster and faster at it. So I think that's where we'll end tonight, because we don't want this to get insanely long. We were only going to have it be 45 minutes, and it's been an hour and 15 now. So what we will do is write all your guys' questions from the comments down, and we're going to probably start at the beginning. We're going to start about where we come up with our ideas. We're going to come up with how we, plot out our book. We've thought about taking some pages from our own personal books, reading them, critiquing them, what we do in our critique groups, so you can see that not everything we write is gold, that we do a lot of ripping into each other, and no, you can't write that, or that's not romance, or that's Victorine's tagline. That's not romance. So you can see where we all fail and have to boost each other up and use each other to help us figure out where we need to add in information. We're excited for you guys to join us on this journey. We're going to shoot for 2 times a month, but I'm thinking we might want to do more than that. I guess start a poll. If you really want to see the Writing Gals more often, let us know. And we'll just do this journey together. So do you guys have anything else you want to say?
No, we covered it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to plan on 2 Thursdays from now. I want to win a critique from y'all. If you guys want and are brave and want to turn stuff in, email us at thewritinggals@gmail.com, and we will look at it. We meet on Google Hangouts together to do a critique group. And then obviously we'll meet here on YouTube. So just shoot us your questions. We have a Facebook group, and they're down in the comments. So we have a website. So if you want to see our books, and on our website, it has individual pages, and you can go onto our Amazon page to see the books that we have, so you can read them and decide if you want to, if we're just, hacks, or if we, kind of know what we're talking about. And then there's also the link to our Facebook group that we'd love to have you join. You can talk one-on-one with us and ask questions. And so, yeah, if you guys want us to do critiques, email us at thewritinggals@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at it. You have to be okay with whatever we say. But like, as we always take each other's advice, we either do it all, you take some advice and you don't take others' advice. So that's just the kind of way it works. So
yeah, just don't hate us after anything.
Yeah.
don't write hate mail to us.
They might love us too, because we might love it. So
yeah, it's true.
So I was going to say, as keeper of the schedule, we have planned to talk about story ideas in our next podcast. And we're not just going to talk, everybody knows about story ideas, like we all get them, but we're going to talk specifically about what you do with them and how you bend them or twist them or make them to market if you want to sell books. So we're going to specifically talk about what to do with them to make them profitable for you.
So if you have any questions or comments, or you want to critique, then send it to us, and we'll talk about where that would fit and how all that kind of stuff works. So just a generalized storyline topic we're going to discuss. So, all right, everybody. We'll see you later.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.